Hello guys, let's talk about ranked 1 versus 1 tier 7, playing as a destroyer. So what have we learned from ranked tier 3, 4, 5 and 6? Well, here's what I've learned. Battleships are probably the easiest class to play because they are basically matched against battleships and some of the cruisers, which are easy to kill in a battleship. They very not at all are being matched against destroyers, maybe 1 or 2 games out of 20 games, whatever. Cruisers, they are fairly often matched against cruisers and destroyers and also some battleships, so they play more or less all classes. And destroyers, if you play very early on the first 3 hours, you will be matched against mainly destroyers. But if you miss that, chances are you meet 50% of cruisers. Personally, I have only met one battleship. In all my games, I played in ranked from tier 3, 4, 5 and 6 now. So out of maybe 80, 90 games, I have met one battleship and probably 30 cruisers and 50 destroyers. Having said that, if you decide to go for destroyer, you need to be aware that this, in my opinion, is the hardest class to play ranked in, but it's also the biggest challenge because destroyer have a very low HP and they can easily be wiped by a battleship in one salvo if you do something wrong. They have a very hard time against their hunter class, the cruisers. Unlike the other classes, a cruiser can avoid a battleship quite well and has enough hit points to at least withstand 1 or 2 salvos. So when we talk about ranked in a destroyer, then in my opinion we need to fit against cruisers and against destroyers. So what I've seen from all the other community contributors who are not main destroyer players, they usually recommended the American gunboats. They did quite okay for the average player who was meeting the average player, and they potatoed it out. But if you were facing an experienced player in an American gunboat, and usually the American gunboats, they got wiped. I killed about maybe 15 Bensons in my last season, or maybe 10, I don't know, but something in between. So I definitely did not recommend the American gunboats in the last tier 6 ranked, and I for sure do not recommend the American gunboats for tier 7. Because in tier 7 things get even more complicated. We have a lot of radar now, we have a lot of sonar, we have a lot of variety of ships, fast ships, slow ships, large HP, low HP. We have heals, we have all the good stuff. When it comes to destroyers, you have to decide what style you will be playing. So there are several styles. Let's get through them. Let's start off with the American or Japanese gunboats. These are pretty comparable. I put together the stats here next to each other so you can see what I mean. They have 21 or 25k hit points. By the way, all my fits are with sims, and most of them they go with Trubetskoy, the Russian DD captain, which gives you 8% damage reduction, which is better than using Hyde, which adds 6%, but a deduction of 8% is much more valuable than an addition of 6%. The only thing what these ships are good at is DPS, so the guns. They do about 4000 DPS, and the guns turn quite okay. The big drawback of AKIZUKI is the very slow speed of 33 knots, while the Fletcher is a bit faster, but not the fastest yet. And the AKIZUKI has only one set of torps. So if you go for a gunboat, I would rather take the Fletcher over the AKIZUKI. Still, I wouldn't use any of the two. The first ship I would consider to use is the ZF6 due to the reload booster. And with the reload booster, it does a similar DPS than the first two ships, but it has faster torpedo reload, it has smoke. So it has very good basic concealment if you want to go more for a concealment fit. And overall, I consider it to be slightly better. Still a very slow moving ship and a very sluggish ship. So while I was considering it for a moment, I think since you have to go against cruisers as well, I think speed is a factor you have to consider. And my ship will be a fast-moving ship. It will have good guns, it will have excellent torpedoes, and it will have decent HP. So let's move on and have a look what else we have in Tier 7. The next ship I would prefer to use is the Loyang if you own this one. This Pan-Asian ship doesn't have the best HP, but it has sonar, and it has the German sonar of 5.4 kilometer, which is very decent, together with smoke. So you might approach some or encounter some newer players who run into your smoke sonar trap, and you could make use of that. Other than that, I personally don't consider sonar to be as essential as most of the community contributors think it is. Most of the battles hover around some islands, and these islands are very tiny. So if you had anything to spot for 3 kilometers, this is more than sufficient. So what I do instead is I change the third module slot from concealment and dispersion to the mod which scouts anything within 3 kilometers. So you know this from a battleship. And if you fit this model to a DD, you have a sonar-like permanent 3 kilometer spotting range. So this is the reason why I personally will not use a sonar. I will use this module, and this is far more efficient. Back to Loyang. It has pretty decent guns with above 3000 DPS. It has good torpedoes, but with a 2-minute reload, which is very slow. So like the Fletcher, and it's pretty okay in terms of speed with 38 knots. So in my opinion, this is the best ship from the ships we have talked up to now. But let's move on to the Tashkent. The Tashkent has some pretty good advantages for 1 versus 1. First, it has 26,500 hit points. Then it has an artillery with 4 forward-facing barrels, so you can stay nose into any enemy destroyer and punish him with 4 barrels while they have to turn broadside to get you. And then on top of it, it has 3 sets of pretty effective torpedoes, and it is pretty fast in terms of knots. So whatever you have to approach, given you need to rush a cruiser or a battleship, you can do this with this ship. So in my opinion, the Tashkent is really a decent 1 versus 1 ship. It's only turning a little bit slow, so you might consider some agile build on this instead of using the standard modules, but I'll leave this up to you. The next ship is the Paolo Emilio. This is a tough choice between the Tashkent and the Paolo. The Paolo has a bit weaker guns with slightly above 2000 DPS, but it has the very best torpedoes in the whole tier with 24,000 something hit points per single torpedo, and it has incredible firing arcs. You can, like the Fantask, you can almost fire the torpedo sets forwards, and you have 1 left and 1 right launcher. So you can rush anybody whom you like to rush. And the guns are there, but you're probably not going to need them because these torpedoes will really wipe everybody off the floor. And the Paolo Emilio has the rolling Italian smoke. So for 30-40 seconds, you hit the smoke button and the enemy can only spot you with sonar or radar while you rush them. And if they don't have it, they can only spot you within 3 kilometers. Of course, you can't see the enemy as well while you approach them. Let's say you approach a DD, but you can spot the cruiser and the battleships in time so that you can release your torpedoes. And again, with the hard-hitting torpedoes, nobody stands a chance if you get them onto the target. Paolo Emilio also comes with decent speed of 43.5 knots. And you're really able to rush any ship with the rolling smoke. So you will have the element of surprise on your end. And again, with 28,500 hit points, this is the largest HP pool. And given you run an inspiration with Trubetskoy and Sims, the Trubetskoy is 8% damage reduction from the incoming damage. So that's about 10% more HP on top. So you're running around with like 30k HP. That's like an average cruiser. Let's say a lighter cruiser. So I think the Paolo Emilio can really perform in ranked in 1 versus 1. For those of you who have been wondering why I haven't talked about the Fantasque, well, here it is. Last but not least, I kept it for the end because many of you know I like the French DDs. So let's talk about the Fantasque. The Fantasque is more at the bottom in terms of HP pool with 21,000 hit points, but the artillery is quite formidable. Within the 15 seconds the reload booster runs, it can dish out about 4,000 DPS, so comparable to Fletcher or AKIZUKI. And on top you have very good torpedoes with 18,000 hit points. And similar to Paolo Emilio, you have 2 launchers almost forward moving. So the arcs are excellent on this ship. And Fantasque is the fastest ship in this tier with the speed boost concealment. You can get this to 58-60 knots. So you can really rush everybody, and most of the time you should be able to pass the middle of the map in a 1 versus 1 and engage the enemy before they can hide behind an island. So you can be able to force them fight you in the open, and I think this is the big advantage of this ship. And also you can close the gap to their sonar or radar very fast, especially to their sonar. Imagine you run into a German 5.4 kilometer sonar. They have basically 1 or 2 salvos maximum while you face nose in until you unleash your torpedoes. So Fantasque should have a good chance, and it also has the best concealment with 4.8 kilometer using the speed concealment. So they have to use sonar or radar to spot you. Other than that, you will have the first salvos of torpedoes out and the guns fired before they can even lock you. So Fantasque definitely has an edge in 1 versus 1 ranked. So as a conclusion, in my opinion, since I have to consider to fight cruisers maybe 50% of my games, I'm yet undecided if I go with the Fantasque or with the Paolo Emilio or with the Tashkent. I think these 3 are my favorite picks. The Emilio for its amazing HP pool, fast moving and incredible torpedoes. I think the Emilio, if you get a lock on the enemy, they will wipe them. You don't need a gunfight here. The Tashkent is good for every situation. I think it's pretty flexible. So you have the 4 forward shooting barrels. You have very decent torpedoes. You have a fast ship. So you're good for many situations in this ship. And the Fantasque being the fastest ship and also with good torpedoes, I think it's also able to fight many destroyers. So honestly, I think I will try all three of them and see what works. Probably I'm going to go with the Emilio first because I know the Fantasque inside out, and I just want to see how it works in a 1 versus 1 fight, because I had some very good YOLO experience in the standard games, and I think this setup works excellent. If you manage to, if you're not spotted with radar on 10 kilometer, then of course you must not use the rolling smoke, because you don't know where the enemy is. Fantasque is the best ship to close the gap as fast as possible. So yeah, it depends a little bit on the situation you will be in. I think there are some games the Emilio might be better. There are some games the Fantasque might be better, and there's some games the Tashkent might be better. So it's really hard to decide, and yeah, think what will be your strategy. If you're more the fast moving player, if you like the gunboat, or if you really consider the YOLO Emilio way of playing the game, it's fully up to you. I think these three are my top picks for ranked tier 7. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the season, and see you out in ranked tier 7 1 versus 1. Enjoy the time, and if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you're new. And yeah, looking forward to hearing your comments. Bye bye.